Hello, everyone, and welcome to SteadiSchool and the Learn Filmmaking Network presents First ACs of the World. I'm excited for you all to be here with us. Before I do the introductions, I am going to do a little remembrance. Today is February 20th, and February 20th is the anniversary of Sarah Jones' death. And so if we could please take a brief moment to reflect on who we are and what we do and on Sarah, I would be very grateful. And so thank you for sharing this moment with us. Thank you. I know that that moment in time affected me greatly, and I appreciate everyone sharing this with us. My name is Matthew Borick. I'm the SteadiSchool Focus Polling Instructor, and I'm very excited to be hosting First ACs of the World. Unfortunately, a lot of my fellow co-hosts are not available today. Gabriel from the Learn Filmmaking Network is snowed in. Chris is working. Jessica's coming off of a Friday. And so you have the pleasure of just the company of ACs today. Please let us know where you're joining us from in the chat. I'm coming from LA, and James and Rose will let us know where they're coming from during their introductions. But if you're not aware, SteadiSchool is an educational platform where we pair focus pullers and camera operators in group workshops, and we do one-on-one mentorship to develop skills, and we just have a lot of fun helping people to further their careers in filmmaking. And the Learn Filmmaking Network is a Instagram platform where filmmakers can connect to share BTS and lift each other up to better the filmmaking community. We're excited to have everyone here, people from London, Belarus, Portugal, India, Haiti, all over the world, Redondo Beach, Canada, Brussels, Washington, DC. It's, wow. The Netherlands, I'm sure, Rose, you might know some people who are here. Austria, this is fantastic. Thank you all for joining us today. We're so excited to have you in our company. And at this point in time, I would like to allow for my fellow panelists to introduce themselves. And we're going to start with Sabrina. Sabrina, why don't you let us know who you are and where you're coming from?
Hello, so my name is Sabrina. I'm a second AC and also a SteadiSchool student, and I live in Los Angeles right now.
Thank you for being here with us. I believe that you recently did a job with Carissa Dorson, who we were on a panel together. Is that not true?
Yes, I saw, yes, the panel was great. Melissa, she's amazing, and it was great working with her. I loved it.
That's fantastic. Thank you for being here today.
Right.
James Blythe is a focus puller from Cape Town, South Africa. James, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey there, everybody. Yeah, I'm a Cape Town-based First AC. I've been pulling for 12, nearly 13 years. Pretty much all in Cape Town and surrounds. Yeah, before that, you come up through the ranks, second AC for 6 years before that. And yeah, it's a fantastic business to be in. And I'm very glad to be back on the webinars again with SteadiSchool.
You were with us for the first one, and so it's great to have you back again after all this time.
Yeah, it feels like it was literally yesterday.
Or a lifetime ago. I really can't tell anymore. And Rose, I believe you're coming to us from the Netherlands. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your hometown?
Yes, I am Rose. I am a focus puller for 13 years. and I'm Amsterdam-based, Netherlands, and this is where I've been working as a first AC for the last 13 years, and before that I was a loader for 4 years.
Loader as in film, or
Yes.
loader as in digital? Oh, excellent. I started out as a loader as well.
A loader, yeah.
Oh, we might have
13 years ago, there wasn't a lot of digital.
You're right about that. It existed, but it not in the same way.
No.
No.
Perfect. Thank you again for joining us. We're very excited to have you in our company and to have these diverse global perspectives to share with our audience. I vote we jump right into it. Sabrina, I think that you're starting us off with a question for James.
Yeah, so again, thank you, James, for being here. And as Matthew said earlier, you joined us in May. Now, would you say, has your industry in the region recovered, or has COVID kind of like slumped continued?
The slump has definitely continued. We got shut down in the middle of March when COVID was starting to make its way around the world. We got shut down literally 7 days short of a big 24-week project. And there was an initial total and utter shutdown of everything. Then as we realized, okay, we need to get things back up and running again. So stakeholders here in South Africa started to get the wheels turning, started to put together protocols as to how we can actually get up and running. I was fortunate to be asked to kind of assist in some of that from a technician perspective, how we can get the technical floor running. And we were able to get back up and running and do some pickups from that job we got shut down on. But yeah, the slump continued because we did have a national lockdown. Our borders were closed, flights were restricted, travel restrictions within the country as well certainly didn't help. And also, you know, being pretty much at the bottom of the world down here in South Africa, it's a long way for anybody to travel to, especially when you've got pandemics on the loose. Everybody had their anxieties about travel and working and what's going to happen. And we were able to kind of get things up and running again. Certainly with our pickups, we started live streaming. That kind of started to come into play, and being able to liaise real time with directors on the other side of the world. That was nice. You know, you can actually talk to them while you're shooting. They can give you instructions literally while you're pulling. No, go here, go there. I like this, I like that. You know, so it did kind of bridge the divide, the physical divide of lockdown. The things were picking up again as we actually, on that picture you can see that big talk button. That was our talkback system, which allowed us to chat real time with people around the world. That was a real winner. But with we did start to get back into a work scenario, and then now we've had the second wave, and we have well, everybody or the world knows is the South African variant of COVID. That unfortunately has kind of put us on the back burner again. So it's kind of locked us down. It's pushed work out. You know, but small things are still coming in. You know, there's still a commercial here and there. Some big jobs are about to start up. So those that are willing to at least come out and do their time here rather than a short 1-2 days because of their return isolations that they're going to, big jobs are starting up again, which is very promising, you know, for all of us here that have been sitting and waiting for the work to come in.
Would you say the adaptation was easy during that time, or would you say it took a little bit to kind of get used to this like new way of working?
The initial kind of way of working, I'd say from the technical floor perspective, was tricky because we were limited. Our government placed limitations on numbers of people at a gathering, so we couldn't have more than 50 people at a gathering. So as a film set, we literally had 50 people between base camp and our shooting set, and that was limited further by maximum of 25 people on the shooting floor, which technically, you know, you've got lights, you've got grips, you've got camera, you've got sound, you've got cast, you've got hair, you've got makeup, you've got ADs, you've got a lot of people. There's a lot of moving parts. And about 3 days of shooting, our first morning was probably the most difficult because we had a COVID compliance officer on set that was kind of waving a big stick and saying, "Oh, step away, you know, you're too close, you're too close." And our first morning, our productivity went way down. But come lunchtime, we'd kind of all got into this new way pretty quickly. So instead of me going in with a camera to set up on the head and legs or on the dolly, because the way we work here is grips are responsible for head, legs, camera, head, legs, dolly, crane. So I would normally just go straight in with a camera. Now it's like, okay, now I have to wait. You know, you wait that extra 10 seconds, 20 seconds, rather than going in and trying to be a bit more prompt. But as soon as we kind of all got around that initial, okay, we need to wait, our productivity just shot up again, and we just really got into the flow of things again. And that's kind of persisted through all the days I've actually done since. And everybody has adapted to it because they know that there are constraints on physical distancing, and we're all wearing masks, and everybody's got their own little spray bottle of sanitizer, and all touch points and panhandles and this and that are getting sprayed the whole time. But it's just become the new norm. So now it is the norm, and we get on with it, you know, because if we have to do these things in order to work, we'll do them.
Totally. Thank you for that. That I know that everyone, at least here, has gone through like getting, like you said, used to a new normal and the swing of things with like COVID implied as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Rose, that brings us right into what I'm going to ask you, which is what's been your experience working during the pandemic, and what changes have you seen in your region?
Well, we obviously got a lockdown in March as well. And since that time, I was involved with writing the protocol for the Dutch industry. And the idea was to keep it as normal as possible, because there were a lot of ideas of getting rid of trainees and getting rid of your second. And we really tried to make a protocol to have everybody back on set, because that's just important. Everyone's there for a reason. So I started out back in May, beginning of June, on a feature. And it was quite a heavy protocol. 6 people allowed inside, including actors. So that was very challenging. That meant having a remote head. Who's going to do the slate? Well, during this time, it all evolved. And after a week or so, we were back into a nice flow to work. It's like what James is saying. You just wait, you get your stuff in, you go out, and I mean, everyone wants to work. And I think that's the main, like the motor for everyone. Everybody wants to get back to work. Everyone wants to make a movie, and no matter what it takes. And I think that's what I've seen in the last few months. I've been working back to back from June to the end of December. Everybody's willing to work. Everybody is willing to do whatever it takes. So I haven't seen that much changes, but I think that's the biggest change, that everybody's really motivated.
That's great. It's good to hear that because there are so many regions that are facing lots of change, that you seeing less change is nice, because a lot of us are looking forward to getting back to, you know, the usual pace of filmmaking, as opposed to the stepped back one that many are currently faced against. I'm excited to say that Jessica Lopez, SOC, was able to join us. Thank you for being here, Jess. And I think that there might be a question or two in the Q&A box already. Do you have one that you could pull for us?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay. Thank you for joining us. So Arnie Van Wonick, I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong, has a great question. So after the initial waiting, how did less people on set affect productivity? Was it easier to take marks, move the camera, or discuss the next shot? I imagine that's for Rose, off of what you just said.
For me, I experienced a lot of focus on set. Less people, less talking, less everything. So for me, it was actually kind of great to have less people on set. It was, yeah, there was a lot of focus. There's, it's a very short answer. There was more focus, and I think that was great. Yeah, I mean, I was the one doing the marks because my second wasn't allowed in. Here you can see it on the photo. This was such a small area where I had to be outside, so I discussed it with the first AD. There was always a space for me near a window, or they built a scaffolding for me where I could see the scene from the outside through the window. So yeah, I would have to say that's one of the few benefits that the COVID protocol brought us, that there's more focus.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I'll definitely chime in on that and say, not to say that film sets are in any way bloated with people, but sometimes things can get a little bit loud. You know, there can be sometimes too many voices, and being able to, or being forced into having fewer people on set definitely did kind of bring the overall buzz down just a little bit. Just to, I mean, I know I always try and keep my department, or certainly my team, their noise kind of down to a dull roar, at least, so that they're not getting in the way or interfering with the process. But it was definitely things, I think, were a lot calmer, a lot more focused, as Rose said, because you have people a lot more aware of who and what was around them, given the distancing, and we're all wearing masks, visors, and whatnot. But just also having that the time and fewer voices to focus, but at the same time having to take on the extra role of something because of someone else, because of the limited numbers. It does kind of get back to maybe a bit more of a raw filmmaking, where it's you're there for a purpose, and that purpose becomes a lot more directional and a lot more focused.
Thank you so much for letting us know. It's a crazy time. Things are definitely different. They're harder and sometimes easier.
That's great. I've got the next one for Rose. So at least in the USA, first ACs rarely took a break to leave set before the pandemic. What practices have you developed for proper nutrition and hydration while needing to wear a mask on set?
I have this is always with me. This is my flask of herbal tea. I have a RoboCup, and my goal is I have to finish that bottle by the end of the day. And I think now, with wearing the masks, it's easier to ask for the 5-minute break that we obviously need to go outside, walk away, breathe, and take a bottle of water. I mean, yeah, this is a great example of a day where I didn't drink anything at all. That's really shit. Big scene inside, I think 100 plus extras, no time, too much to do. So yeah, I have not added anything to my routine except for asking for the 5-minute breaks a lot more, and just having my tea with me, really.
That's a simple thing, though, that I think that most of us take for granted, the idea to just request time. We become so beholden to the schedule. Oh, we're behind schedule. Oh, we need to make up time. Oh, that the idea of saying, well, I need 5 minutes personally to just like step off set and take a drink of water. We think that that's frowned upon, right? And so it's great to hear you say that that's what you did. You took charge and said, I need a minute.
Oh, obviously, yeah, but it's not just for me. I mean, as a focus puller, we're kind of high up in the pyramids. So I think that it's, at least that's how I see it, it's my responsibility for all the, for my second, but for my grip and for my trainee, for everyone to ask for that moment, because obviously you lose your focus after a few hours of wearing a mask like this, and it's, I mean, you need it. And then when you get back, you can just finish the scene or start a new one, or I don't know, work more efficient when you're able to breathe.
That's great. I had mask fatigue the other day. It's very real. James, go ahead.
I did a commercial back in, I suppose it was October, and we were indoors. And it was a big hotel kind of penthouse kind of suite, but we had the doors closed, and we were a fairly full complement of crew, because they had lessened the restrictions. We were allowed more numbers in terms of gatherings, but it definitely reached a point where I just turned to the AD, turned to the first, and I said, it's getting stuffy in here. It's hot. I'm starting to sweat in here. It's like, this is not good given the current climate. You know, we are trying to social distance in a small space. It's getting hot and stuffy. We need to actually open the doors and we need to air this place out, because it's not actually healthy for us. You know, and I've sometimes done that pre-COVID when the room's been full of smoke or what have you from a smoke machine, and I just say, can we just get some fresh air for a bit? But the few times I have worked during COVID, I've definitely kind of made a point of not so much calling out, but putting my hand up and saying, guys, this isn't feeling right. It's hot and stuffy in here, and I'm wearing a mask. Yes, we all are, but there are a lot of us crammed in the space. We need to actually just take a break, air it out, cool down, go outside, take a mask off when you're away from people and get a bit of fresh air and just kind of cool down a bit. And then we can go back in and like do it again, you know, until it gets hot and sweaty again. But just to kind of say, listen, this is getting a little bit kind of iffy here, you know, getting a bit funky. So we kind of just need to be aware of that, you know, and just put up a hand and say, can we just do this 5 minutes, 2 minutes even, just fresh air? You know, so yeah, I think Rose is right in definitely saying, listen, just a few minutes, let's just have a breather. It's air out the stuffy room and find ourselves the breath of fresh air and our focus again.
Yeah, that's great. I agree. Sometimes everyone needs to take a break and and air things out. It's important to recognize the human side of it, but that sometimes falls by the wayside.
Yeah.
Sabrina, I think that you've got the next question up.
Yes, it's for James. So in what situation do you find it hardest to social distance? And when do you make a point to say something about it?
Social distancing is definitely difficult on the small sets, really inside houses. I know this came up on a previous webinar. Jess was actually talking about it and asking, what is the setup? Because she was doing a one through the house, I think, and what's the setup? How many people, you know, and just trying to get the lay of the land of what the conditions were that they were going to be shooting in. But small sets and commercials, the commercial side of things, for me, are the main sticking points. The long form TV and movies, the big stuff, their protocols I find are a lot more rigorous, and they're enforced a lot more. But the commercials, it's quick in and out, it's short and sharp. I wouldn't say they're flouting the regulations, but sometimes there might be a little bit of rule bending, or it's not as strict as things should be. And I've put my hand up and I said, excuse me, too many people, please put your mask on, step away from my focus tree. You know, this is my little domain. You know, if I can reach out and touch you, you're too close. that kind of thing. The other thing that does get, you kind of fall into old habits, you know, of forgetting about COVID when you're dealing with colleagues and you're working alongside colleagues that you've known for 10, 20 years, because you've got that relationship, and suddenly you're in this new kind of context where, okay, you stand over there, you stay 2 meters away from me. It's like, but I've known this person for 10, 15, 20 years. And the assumption is, well, they're okay. There's nothing wrong with them. But, you know, with COVID, we don't know. We just have to assume everybody's got it. That's why we wear masks and sanitize and do all of that. Another difficulty, I would say, with the with the physical distancing, and especially masks, is when as a first, I'm trying to relay information, or I've seen something that I need to just ask or just bring to light to maybe hair and makeup, because there's something that's out of place, and you don't want to make a big scene, so you just kind of want to just lean over and have a whisper, just do a final check on this, or I'm seeing something that's a bit shiny, or this, that, and the other. That's difficult when you're wearing a mask and a person standing 2 meters away. Now, you can't really have a quiet word. Everybody's going to hear it. And you don't want your colleagues to kind of feel that you're putting them in the spotlight, because now you actually have to kind of shout at them and say, hey, there's hair out of place. You know, it's just, or I'll just say to the first AD, can we just get a final check? And then it's then kind of official from them, just final checks, you know. But I always try and keep like hair and makeup on my side by going to them personally and saying, can you just check this? Can you check that? You know, because they appreciate it. They don't want to be called out. They don't want the cast member to say, hey, my hair's not right, or I'm feeling shiny. I just give a little kind of, I'll help you, you help me, you know, we're all in this together. We all want to look good, and we all want to come back tomorrow. You know, so the distance and communication is probably the biggest thing, you know, especially with the masks. And some people's masks, you can't hear anything through them, but you know, it's adaptation. You know, we just kind of have to figure it out as we go.
No, that was perfect. And those are some really good examples. I do agree. It is harder to speak, and especially some people's maths are a little more muffled than others. And you definitely don't want to yell at people, because that, of course, that's not anyone's intention to yell, but you do want to put your point across with, like, if you notice something in a scene. Yeah,
the picture that Matt put up, I was wearing a cartridge mask. That was the beginnings of COVID, but I was actually wearing it more for the smoke machines we had on set. Because when you're sitting in when you've got Atmos in the whole time, you know, when you're sitting in a day in, day out, you know, and you can't escape because, well, you're stuck next to camera. I tend to pull that out, and that's the worst mask for trying to communicate, because it's rubber and you can practically shout and nobody's going to hear you. You've got to take it off, speak. But at least an N95 or a cloth mask, it is easier.
No, definitely. It's a little more heavy duty, I guess, maybe the word for it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing that. Jess, do you happen to have another one from the audience for us?
Yes, I do. I'm going to shift subjects a little. There's a really good question here about the change of the industry for focus pullers. And it's by Philip Bratushny. Sorry, again, I'm mispronouncing names left and right. His question is, how has pulling focus changed for you with the change in cinematography, like large format, open apertures, and more handheld work? Do you rely more on your monitor, or how do you deal with these challenges?
Who wants to take that one first? That's a good one.
It's all of you.
Yeah, go, James.
Okay, I'll start. We'll start with the shooting stop. That I always assume is wide open. Invariably, it is. And when the DP comes along and decides to put it at a 4.56 or 5.68, I'm like, I don't know what that is. I try and work in absolutes and not to rely on that that mystical thing called depth of field, which it doesn't matter what your chart or your calculator says. It never feels like that in the real world. But the change in terms of, I've actually lost the question. Oh, I had it here. I was reading it. There we go. Handheld work was probably one of the biggest things to kind of get around, because it suddenly became so freestyle. Your operator would go anywhere, and that tied in often with actors that don't understand what a focus mark is. It's just a piece of tape on the ground, or it's a sausage mark or something. It's a guideline. I've been on a lot of jobs where there's been a lot of freestyle, and also freestyle with Steadicam, because Steadicam is that tool which allows you to get that steady shot, those fluid movements in a very freestyle manner, and you can go anywhere with it, given the ability to move through the set. And I've always enjoyed the freestyle nature of it. I do find it's quite organic. And in terms of my reliance on the technology, I cut my teeth on film, on 35mm and 16, and I had an SD reference monitor on the camera, which often or not was being used by the operator or the DP to frame the shot. So I had to rely on the tape measure, and then I upgraded myself to a laser rangefinder, which, depending on how tight the shot was, I would actually be using that in shot. Ping the actor's feet from where I was just to get a quick reference. And then when the HD or the digital started coming out, so the monitors or feed from the monitor became a lot more of an obvious choice, and that tied in then with having the availability of a wireless focus system, and then oh wow, I can put the two together, and I don't have to be anywhere near the camera. And in freestyle shooting, that did kind of force me and a lot of focus pullers into the monitor, as opposed to next to camera and doing it old school, where you've got your hand on the wheel and you're just watching the actor, watching the film playing and pulling accordingly. But the monitor has given, it's a great tool, but at times I do find I have to admit I get stuck in it. I rely on it at times. Sometimes it is the only way to pull a shot, given the scenario or what is being shot. But it's, for me, whatever tool you have available to you is a tool that you have to use. If you don't have a monitor, then you've got to use your eyes. You've got to use your gut instinct. You've got to use those reference marks, whether it be your arm span, your stride. You can stride out, pace out how far away something is, get your 2 or 3 reference points, and you just pull it. And I've got seconds, young seconds that say, well, how do you do it? It's like, well, you just use the force, Luke. You just do it. It's kind of it's a practice thing, and the more you do it and the more you have your usual references of how high a doorway is or how wide your arm span is, those are your key little things that you work with, and you start off with that, and then you just pray and hope for the best.
I do think pulling with the monitor is part of that change. Obviously, as an operator, I do look for ACs that are willing to walk away from the monitor and come next to me and pull by sight, because I'm a Steadicam. I'm walking through different rooms, and we're creating this amazing path where sometimes signal gets lost, or there's a bogey or something happens to where you kind of got to come next to me and pull next to me. So it's nice that still exists.
Yeah, that ability to unclip from a stand, even if your AC is alongside you with a picture and a wireless and a monitor, and they're alongside you, and they're using a monitor as a reference because you're adjusting your framing, and maybe they're going to see, okay, I'm seeing that picture just move just a little bit. Okay, that's where they want me to go with the focus. Those little subtleties that an operator and an AC have to develop, and that communication, that kind of spoken communication. Sometimes you really only see that in a monitor, where you see that frame move a little bit, but being able to just unclip and to just go with the operator because of conditions, as you say, moving through a house, moving through a big pumping party sequence in a club, moving down a path in the forest or something, or just in the street, you're going to lose signal, and you don't want to lose signal. So you got to get up and go. And if you can have a picture with you, that can help. But I've been in situations where my Steadicam operator is actually, despite the fact that we have sound recording, talking to me. It's like, I'm going here, or they're talking to their grip. That's just helping steer them around something because they're tracking backwards. If we have to speak during the shot, well, we have to speak during the shot. Invariably, it's a safety thing. But if you can stay in communication with the operator, that's the best. And I never sit in another room, out of sight of an operator. I will be close enough that I can hear something. And I normally have a set of comms, which I get from the sound guy at the start of the job. So I'm keyed into what the cast are saying, given the scene, but I could literally hear whatever's happening around the camera as well. So if there are little mutterings, I've got it, But it's being able to just get up off the chair, off the Apple box, and walk with the operator, even if it's just with your handheld unit and no monitor. If you can do that, that's an essential tool to have, just be able to do that. And a lot of the junior focus pullers, junior firsts, don't know how to do that because they started on a monitor, and that's where they've become stuck and entrenched. And you take the monitor away and say, okay, just go pull the shot. How far away is that? Just go with it. And they get very anxious.
What's a good exercise for people to learn how to pull by sight as opposed to off of a monitor?
I would say if you've got a nice, strong Fatmax steel tape measure or a laser rangefinder, you've got a Disto or you've got a Hilti, just sit at home in your lounge and just ping things around your room in your known space. How far away is the door? How far away is this? How far away is a pot plant? So you get used to distances. Okay, just looking at something. Okay, that is 7.5 feet away. And you look at that, you're looking at that distance every single day because that's where you live. And that distance becomes ingrained in you. Know what your arm span is. Invariably, it's pretty close to your height, and what one stride is. Maybe it's only 2.5 feet. Maybe it's 3.5 feet. Maybe exceptionally tall. Maybe you've got really, really big feet. What have you. But get those known distances in as much as you can, because you can't always take the tape measure out. Cast members there, you can't poke them in the eye with a steel tape measure. You can't run a cloth tape. If you've got a laser, try and be sneaky. Otherwise, just step out. Hold your arms out. Okay, there it is. Take 2 steps to them. That's how far away they are. So it's just working on known distances and seeing them every single day. And then you start guessing, okay, how far away is it? You take a guess, then you measure. How far off are you? Okay, you start fine-tuning that way. Little bit. That's how I did it.
And once you do that, you sometimes will lay pieces of tape on the ground with those notes on it too, correct?
Yes. You can in a set, on a shooting set, you're definitely going to ping or mark off certain objects, fixed objects within the set, whether it be the edge of a table, whether it be a doorway, or you're going, as you say, you put a piece of tape. Okay, that's 6 foot away. That's 10 foot away. So you get your reference marks for a particular distance, and then you work according to those. Okay, the person's walked 1 step towards me. Okay, now they're 8 feet away. You know, you learn to do that math really quickly as to, okay, that's how far away they are. They've taken a step. Okay, now they're probably over here. You know, and you take your 3 marks and you just go from there.
Rose, do you have any input on the subject matter of the changing conditions for camera assistants? Focus pullers.
I would have to say, I have actually nothing to add because he was saying everything I was about to say. Yeah, I think you're very right. But in terms of large formats, I think one thing to highlight is that if you're on a prep, I would check your wide lenses even better than you did before, because I think that's very critical on large format. So that's one thing I want to add. And I would just want to agree on what James is saying, like use your tools, use your surroundings, use everything that you can, that your brain can process to pull the focus. And a lot of it is experience. It's a little bit of bluffing. And yeah, I mean, honestly, we've all been there. We're like, yeah, no, sure, let's do the shot. And then you're dying on the inside because, yeah, I mean, it's always exciting, wide open on a very long lens.
Yeah, when it's 180 mil handheld, wide open, and the AD says, right, let's shoot the rehearsal. And you go,
yeah,
okay.
Or they're looking at you and it's like, we're losing the light. What do you think, Rose? Let's go. I'll be always like, let's do it. Yeah, just get confident with distance is actually how I would sum up your complete story. Great explanation.
Last night, my camera assistant and I had a shot where we only got 1 take, and it was 85% awesome to me and him. You know, everybody was happy with it, but we could have used 1 more. But, you know, sometimes you only get 1 take, and you got to be ready for whatever's thrown at you, whether you're walking, whether you're focus pulling, whether, you know, something just changes, and sometimes you only get 1 shot at it.
So it was 85% awesome and 15% absolutely terrifying.
Yes.
In other words.
Yeah. I nipped his headroom. Fuck. He buzzed. Fuck.
Yeah, you normally hear the first AC. I know I do it on those types of shots. If people are standing around me and there's a lot of movement or I miss something, I'll be like, you know, like, you know, like I talk to myself when I pull focus, and yeah, I try and make sure my internal monologue's turned down, because I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to pulling focus.
You guys are very graceful, though, at, you know, being that way. Very diplomatic.
I think we all do this, right? That's the benefit of the mask. Now no one can hear us. Like,
yeah, if I have an operator turn to me and say, "You buzzed," well, I say, "Well, you didn't point the camera where it was sharp." You know, that's my usual comeback. But I can only say that once or twice, and it is operator dependent.
That's really funny. I think a final piece to this that comes with experience is also perspective, field of view. Over time, you'll learn what a 50 mil, like if a person is in frame with just like this with a 50 mil, they're probably X amount of feet away. If you're on an 85 mil and this is the frame, they're Y amount of feet away. And that is consistent every single time, depending on the size of the person. But again, something that comes with experience, knowing how to apply field of view to distance. Rose, this is kind of a segue. Would you encourage new focus pullers to invest in wireless focus devices?
Absolutely not. And I'll tell you why. My introduction was I've been a focus puller for 13 years. And the first 10 years, I didn't own any gear at all. So I was mostly provided with whatever came with the camera package. So most of the time it was a follow focus. When you're just like close to the lens, you're close to your operator, you're in the scene. And during the years, I got to try some remotes, a Preston, a WC4, some of C-Motion's first designs, the compact. And yeah, for new focus pullers, I would say try to discover what works for you. Work with every remote you can get your hands on. Just, I mean, we all have a different taste in how it works, so just feel what works for you. But in the first place, I would say give it a go with a follow focus, because that gives you the feeling of a scene. You can see what the actors are doing. You can see that an actor moves its feet before it's going to walk, or it's going to stand up, or if it's going to move. You can listen to your breathing of your operator when it's heavily breathing and he's going to do something. I think that's all very important to know as a focus puller, where you're involved in the scene. And you can only do that with a follow focus, honestly. So investing in kit, no, don't do that. Try everything, and once you know, you will know, and then you can buy some kit. And I think that's also the time where you have saved enough money to buy the kit.
I would wholeheartedly agree with everything you've said there.
Thank you.
The follow focus, being attached to camera, being kind of one with the camera, is it gives you the feeling of how the camera moves, for starters, how an operator is going to physically move. And as you said, it gets you next to the cast, it gets you looking at the cast. So it's not sitting with a follow focus and staring at a monitor. It's hand on the wheel, staring at the cast and the film playing, the cast and the distance. That's what it is. It's not sitting here staring into a monitor, because you've negated the whole idea of studying people and how people move and what people do before they sit up, when they sit down. They lean first, they lean forward, they lean back, they do this, they do that. I suppose you become a biokineticist. You learn how people move, and those little subtleties and telltale signs of what somebody does before they do it, those really help you as a focus puller. And from a technical aspect as well, the follow focus is dependent on whatever lens you put on. So you're learning every lens that you have in the package for that job. You're learning the acceleration of that lens. You're learning what fast pulls are on an 85 versus a 16, given the increments on the lens. And the new wireless systems with the programmable, where you slaving all the lenses to one ring, whether it be the 20-inch ring on a WCU4, whether it be the B ring on the Preston, that has made pulling very nice, because it's one feel for all lenses. But I think as a junior focus puller, getting into it, being on the wheel, you get to understand how the lenses actually work, and the nature of pulling, and the organic nature of it, given all the dynamics of cast and camera movement, and how the dolly grips moving things. And is it good to sit on the dolly? Is it good to walk next to it? You don't learn those when you're sitting on an Apple box staring at a monitor. So what Rose says, she spent her first 10 years on the wheel, on the camera, that is experience that you cannot learn anywhere else except by doing it.
Does that translate, because these are film skills, and for people that have come up on digital, does it translate to both mediums, the style and the protocol and the way you should be a focus puller? That makes sense.
I will have to be honest.
Start, Rose? Yeah.
Well, I have not been focus pulling a lot on film, actually. I mean, I've been focus pulling Red One and, well, everything after. So I would say no. There's not a for me. There's not a difference between film or digital, aside from the fact that the sound of film makes me always a little bit nervous about run out and stuff like that. I mean, that's maybe a traumatic experience as a loader, but
There's this thing where some focus pullers really have to rely on a monitor because it's digital. Is that a thing?
when you mean when they're shooting on digital, they need a monitor. Well, it's like what James is saying. I think you should be able to pull focus without, honestly. I mean, I've had my monitor die on me more than one time in a shot because I am a bit lazy with my batteries. I forgot to change it. But then I can still pull the shot. And I think that's something that you should be able to do. Period. You should be able to do it without.
I was on a job where, I'm sorry, James. Go ahead.
I think you should be able to do it, yes. But digital, I think, has I mean, technically, if you look at film emulsion versus a digital sensor and depth of focus and everything that happens optically behind the lens, there are differences between a sensor and film. I guess it's small differences in terms of all the depths and the mathematics. But I think when you're getting into the tighter stuff and having that monitor reference, even if you've got an ultrasonic rangefinder, you've got a cine tape or a focus bug on board, that's just giving you reference. You still need to know all the other little distances that are in play, because I know I've seen a lot of movies where actors had very sharp ears and eyes have been a little bit fuzzy. But being able to actually pull focus on the whole without a monitor, I think it when your monitor goes down, it's a definite, it's a must. You don't want to be jumping up saying, "Oh, my monitor's died," because everybody's going to turn to you and say, "Well, you're a focus puller. You should be pulling focus."
Exactly.
You've got to be able to get through the shot. But I think with digital, the style of filming changed. It's just a card. We can shoot as much as we want, and we will just go wherever we want with the camera. We'll just shoot everything wide open, and we're going to shoot everything on the 1000 mil wide open at 8 foot. It's like, okay, well, and we're not going to rehearse either. Sometimes you do need a monitor, but being able to fall back on experience and just being able to pull without a monitor will definitely save you at some point. It may only be one particular shot on an entire movie where you have to do that, but it's that shot that counts, and it's the shot that nobody talks about because there was no issue, because you just got up and did it because your monitor died, but you carried on pulling. So when they talk about you, that is a problem. When they don't talk about you, everything's great. So it's a bit of a catch-22. You want people to notice you, but you want them to notice you for the good things, and they don't talk about those. They only talk about you when you pull one soft shot.
I was on a job where my awesome, amazing female camera assistant only relied on the monitor, and it went down, and we lost like a good 10, 15 minutes of time trying to figure out how to get her another monitor because she wouldn't pull by sight. And I didn't want that for her because she was so amazing. I didn't want them to walk away knowing that she couldn't fix the issue. So I ended up giving up my Steadicam, my spare Steadicam monitor to her, so she had something. But in the end, it didn't help her, and I felt bad.
I think in that situation, if she had actually just taken the 30 seconds, 10 seconds even, saying, "Listen, can I just pull the tape? Can I get my laser? Can I just take a mark?" And believed in herself, that there's a bit of confidence there, and to actually just to do it, give it a go. Okay, you don't want to have to give it more than one go, but you actually say, okay, this is what I do. I'm going to take a mark. If the camera's moving from there, from A to B, and the actor's not moving, these are my marks. That's where I'm pulling from there to there. If the actor's moving and the camera's not, according, okay, if it's the converging track shot, they're walking in diagonals and it's crazy like, you know, it's a bit more complicated, but it does come down to a confidence thing. And I would hope that she can at some point give it a go, have the monitor in her hand, but to not look at it. Just try a rehearsal. Just give it a go. Have a feel for it. And then if needs be, go and ask the BT to just record it, have a quick playback. Okay. It's just a confidence thing. You do it a couple of times, okay. It's not as crazy and as dark an art as it's made out to be. It's like, just do a couple of simple things, take a mark, take another mark, and just give it a go. You know, it is very much a confidence thing. I mean, I have seconds ask me, when is it time to step up and be a first? It's confidence. When you feel you're ready, you can do it. That's when you step up. Or your colleagues tell you, right, move up. You've done enough of this. Time for you to pull focus, or time for you to operate. Off you go. You know, so it is a tough thing when I've seen a colleague in a situation where a monitor's gone down and they spin. You know, that the headless chicken, and it's like you feel so much for them, and you kind of step away from yours and you try and help them out in that situation. And also, I mean, that said, all the gear's working and they can't pull a shot, and the DP comes to you and says, can you pull the shot? It's gut-wrenching when you get asked to pull the shot that your colleague can't, and you know, and you could get the shot, and I mean, it's devastating for them. So that it is a learning process, and you just got to talk it out afterwards. You know, it's all learning. You're all there to just get the job done and to help each other out. Yeah.
But I think that's the most painful of our job, that our mistakes are visible. I mean, the sound guy can make a mistake, but no one will ever hear it. But everyone's attached to their monitors.
Especially with digital.
Everything
especially
is
with
visible.
digital, everybody has a picture.
Yeah, and they're all very judgmental, of course, because and when you're wide open, long lens, everyone's gonna see it, and it's just shit. I mean, we can all be very honest about it. It's just shit, and you'd have to get over it very fast. I mean, you do that as well. You say, get over it, do it again. There's absolutely no shame in making a mistake. We've all made a mistake. We've all opened a mag of film. At least I did years ago. Yep, everyone's raising their hands, I think. I mean, get over it, move on, learn from it, and go. Does your monitor die? You need another take, ask for it. Just ask for it. There's absolutely no shame in asking for it. That's what I would say.
This has all been great. This has been great conversation around a very relevant topic for people who want to move up and even are just starting out as focus pullers. And I think Sabrina's next question is also relevant to persons who are looking to learn more about focus pulling and are just starting out. Sabrina, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so it was directed towards James. I know you answered variations of this question, but do you have any tips for learning new wireless focus devices?
New wireless focus devices. Definitely be spending with the current trends of focus pullers kind of getting further and further away from cameras, and especially now with COVID, wireless focus it's kind of the norm. And even in pre-COVID and post-COVID, it is the norm. Freeze an operator up. But learning a new one, I would definitely spend time at the rentals house, wherever it may be, or if you've got colleagues that have them, and say, listen, you've got a new WCU4, you've got a Preston, you've got C Pro, you've got Tilta. It doesn't matter what you have. The only thing is to remember that they all do the same thing. You know, focus, all it is connecting you wirelessly to the camera. And in terms of learning a new system, it's literally time spent, because every system does have its little tricks. You know, every camera's got its tricks. Every film camera's got its quirks, and you can get out of a world of pain if you don't know that, if you know those tricks. And those that don't, you just step in and you fix the problem. But I know learning a new system, you've got to chat to as many ACs as possible that have them, that have used them, to try and find out what environments they have had issues in. There are a lot of tables and charts out there with what frequencies to use or to not use, given or they give you interference, or you've got wireless issues, or you're filming in a harbor or a port tower or an airport. There's all these interferences, and knowing how to get around them and what channels to use. That often is experience, or other people's experience. So you need to draw on those people's experience. I know I very much prefer the WCU4. I do a lot of work with the ARRI Mini, so I like that interface. But I do know that with the Mini, there are issues with range with the WCU4. So I've got a booster which I put on the camera, which gives me so much more range, and it's got me out of a world of trouble when there's been interference, because I've been able to actually just blast frequency across the set and cut through all the noise, and I've maintained connection when the camera next to me has lost connection. And Preston has range and reliability on some aspects which it beats the WCU4 hands down. I've yet to use the C Pro. I'm really looking forward to getting one in my hands and trying it out. But learning a new system, you literally have to put the time in. You've got to ask focus pullers that have their own, or just rentals houses, put it on the camera, build the camera, see what works, see what the tricks are, read up about it, find the forums, ask the questions. To just go in blindly and to just pick one is probably a little bit foolish, because they all have pros and cons. If you're going to buy one, you got to buy one that suits your budget, because they're not cheap. There are very cost-effective systems out there, but they've also got their problems. I like a system where you map everything to one ring on the handset, because whether you're on a 16 mil or you're on a 100 mil, it feels the same in the hand. The pull is from 30 feet to 2 foot. Boom, there it is every time. You're not chopping and changing, but you just got to you've got to learn the shortcuts. You've got to learn the tricks. You've got to test range. You've got to test responsiveness. Which motors are best on which lenses, speed, connectivity, dropouts, and those types of things. It's you just have to put the time in, really.
That's perfect. Thank you. And I love how you hit every single note too, about not just price of a focus puller, but just seeing what's best for the person themselves.
Yeah. And also, you're not going to come along with a you can. You can put a big Preston system on with an MDR, because you've got the 4-channel MDR or the 3-motor MDR, and you're going to be putting it onto a Sony A7S. It's kind of a little bit overkill. That doesn't mean you should have every system in your kit, but project dependent. If you can work the system you own, great. But sometimes budgets don't allow for it, or you have to adapt because that's what they have given the system, or you have to step in for somebody else, especially if you're stepping onto a job because somebody's gone down, they've gotten sick, and you've got to step in, and that's the gear you're using. You need to know the gear. So you might be a Preston fan and you don't know the WCU4, and now you want a job with the WCU4. It's like, you need to know these systems. The assumption is, as a focus puller, every camera, every film camera, every wireless focus system, every lens, every accessory, every underwater housing. You theoretically know everything. That's the assumption. That's also why we do gear checks, so we can at least know it for the job.
Very true.
That's great. Thank you, James. I have one I'm going to pull from the audience that was on our own list of questions to ask. And Rose, if you would tackle this one first. What are a couple of things you look for in a good second AC? It's from Edward Gutierrez. Thank you, Edward, for the question. We love this one.
Oh, that's difficult, but I think one thing is very important for me. One is humor. And the second thing is being positive. I don't need a second who is going to complain after 2 hours in the cold, in the rain, in the forest, in the mud. Just stay up, stay positive. I don't care that much about knowledge of equipment because that's something that you can learn. But I do need to get like, these are my children. Yeah, love them. Yeah, I do need to feel like you're making progress during a shoot, or yeah, that you're willing to work with my rules and my system. I'm not very strict. I just what I tell a second up front is, please be honest. If you make a mistake, please tell me. It's only equipment. If you drop, well, anything, just please tell me so that we can act on it, so we can make it better. But I will never be mad unless you did it on purpose, but I don't think so. So just be honest and stay positive and are willing to educate yourself on stuff. And I think I discover quite fast within the hour if my second is really my second and it's going to stay with me for a long time, because it's just a connection on a personal level as well. Someone who's great with someone else just doesn't match with me, and that's fine. I think as a second ACG, you just have to find your focus puller.
That's great. Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that, James.
The other thing they need to be able to do is make a good cup of tea or coffee.
Yes, absolutely. And don't feel like that's, I mean, that's worth a lot. A good cup of coffee, if you do the perfect timing, like 11 o'clock in the morning, and you bring me a coffee, you have no idea how grateful I am at that moment for that coffee. Don't underestimate the coffee. If there are second ACs watching, and you'll understand when you're a first AC later and your lovely second brings you a cup of coffee.
Because as firsts, we don't get to step away and go to the craft table.
No,
so we have to send our minions out. I mean, Rose, you've got your thermos flask, on standby. But yeah, if you don't, when that cup of tea arrives at the right time, or those biscuits, especially if it's a night shoot, it's a well-timed refreshment is always appreciated, and punctuality as well.
What do you guys look for when you're hiring the rest of the camera department? Your loaders, your utilities, VAs, trainees.
Well,
I don't get a say.
Yeah. The Dutch system is working with very small crews. It's me and myself and I, and my second, who's also the data handler. And my DP is also the operator. So if I'm lucky, I get a trainee, and I have a colleague, a DP, who has like a big archive of names. Yeah, we just call around, and I'll do the same as I am looking for as in the second, and want the positive spirited, funny trainee. But that's the team for us. And if there's a B camera, I just see who fits the team on a personal level, and it's good. Yeah,
very much so. I agree there. We don't often get a say as to who we can stock the team with, and the only, we're all on lists. Directors have lists of DPs. DPs have lists of operators. Operators have lists of focus pullers, and so on and so forth. It's not often, as a first, I've been able to choose the entire team. I take on my second AC and a trainee if it's a big job. There's my ginger loader, Craig, and I don't really have any say in terms of who's on the data back end, because they've invariably been in discussions with the DP before I'm even on the job. Same with the video takeoff guys. They generally are brought in separate to the first AC's recommendation. If the production company don't know who's who, can make recommendations definitely. Or during the job, they need to pull an extra camera in, or they want to constitute a second unit or a splinter unit. I just ask for availabilities, and I'll say, look, for this person, this person, this person. So I'll suggest operators and focus pullers, or I'll suggest focus pullers, and I'll let those focus pullers decide who they want as their seconds. You know, I'm not going to dictate to a focus puller who they get to have as a loader. You know, that's not my prerogative at all, because they need to work together as a team. I know I could work with that focus puller, and I trust them that they're going to have somebody that they work well with. You know, and invariably, you know, 99 times out of 100, it's a cohesive unit, whether it's a 2-camera or a 5-camera gig. You know, it's Cape Town especially. It's pretty small. We all know each other. We all know who we want to work with and who we don't want to work with. But you know, when things are busy, everybody's working. So it's not like people are sitting at home when it is busy because somebody said, "Oh, we don't like them." It's like everybody's on a list of operators, of DPs, and we all have our preferred DPs that we like to work with as well. And the ladder works. The lists work both ways.
Do you find it challenging to work with people you have to train at the same time when you're, you know, doing probably a really hard day of work?
Sometimes yes. If it is particularly difficult, or demanding day, and you have a very junior second, it can be tough. But I try and give them their tasks. Like, you just need to do this, and then I will walk you through putting marks down, or I will definitely guide you. Show me where you're going to put your board. You know, before rehearsals even happen, we've got the lens on where you're going to put your board. I'll make sure that, have you got the right information on the board? Have you spoken to continuity? Just give the feedback the whole time. Have you done this? Have you checked that? You know, okay, make sure our trolleys or our lenses are close by. Okay, we've got a nice setup there. No, don't put them there. That's in the way. You know, I give the pointers as to what's good, why, and what's bad and why. You know, and then it's a learning experience for them. Like, okay, well, if I put it there, then this. Okay, I'm standing by. Okay, that's great. It's cool. Nobody shouted at me. I'll do that again. Or I got told, okay, that's in the way. I won't do that again. You know, I've taken on my my stepdaughter as my second. You know, I got her on as a trainee on 2 long jobs, and she's just taken to it. You know, she really enjoys camera, and she's picked it up very quickly. You know, the mechanics of what a loader does. So the loader work has come very naturally to her. She picks things up practically on a practical perspective very readily. So I'll be fine tuning and honing those skills, and at the same time slowly introducing the technical aspects of camera. And okay, well, this is how we wire up a wireless focus. You know, this is how we do a clean build on a camera. But she's also gaining that experience from watching me build and how I do it. You know, and I always like to, during a job, regardless of my loader's experience, they see how I do things, and I explain why I do things a particular way. Not because I've been told that way, because it's the way it should be done, but because I found it's, for me, the most expedient and the most practical way to do things. You know, it's what it comes with the seconds.
That's great. I think it's valuable for us all to hear the differences that, you know, people find important for, you know, who they hire, why they hire them, and what they expect of them. And it's great to see you supporting the communities that you're in so positively. I think that positive attitudes are a big part of it. And I've said this to many persons who are coming up. You can be 99% technically proficient and 100% an asshole, and you will not get hired compared to the person who is 85% technically proficient, but 100% a pleasure to be around. You know, people will definitely hire someone who is a pleasure to be around over someone who's a jerk, no matter their technical skills.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree with that. I also like to ask seconds, like, what do they want to do? Do they want to be a first? Do they want to be an operator? Do they want to be a DP? Where do they see themselves in 2 years, 5 years? You know, if they're saying, well, I'm only doing this until I can be a producer, I'm like, okay, well then go and produce, because you don't want to be here. You know, it's like, if you want to be a DP, do you want to be a DP because you've come up the ranks and you've learned technical aspects of camera and taken on as much information as you can through that process of going through the ranks? Or do you just want to bide your time and then go off and start shooting stuff and put together a reel and hope for the best? You know, I like to see seconds that start to preempt and they start to think beyond where they are. So a second that is starting to think like a first, and they are able to, and I feel that I can give them some of the responsibility. I can say, okay, just go set that up, or I'm just going 10-1, just pull the rehearsal, you know, or to make it sharp. You know, I will throw those things at them to see how they react. Some of them are like, no, I don't want to do that. It's like, well, why not? Do you want to be a focus puller? You've been loading for 4 years. Start thinking. Like, do you start preempting? You know, if I'm setting a camera up and I'm kind of looking at flares and lights, and suddenly I turn around and there's a second with a top flap or a side flap or a French flag, I'm like, okay, they're thinking beyond where they are, because that's where they want to go. You know, I like to see that in all departments, not just camera. When I see guys at the bottom of the rank, bottom of the ladder in each department, and they're wanting, like, I see them gunning for that top position because they want to be there. And it's very obvious in attitude. You know, they're there first, they're last. You know, they're there all the time. They're the first ones to answer the radio. You know, they get there purely on their own ability and merit. You know, and the crew on set normally pick that out. You know, and they will say, right, you coming back, we'll see you on the next job. That's if you're on the next job, that means you're doing something right.
It's like not waiting for someone to tell you what to do, but actually trying to anticipate, being a few steps ahead, and just, you know, making good decisions for your team.
Yeah, exactly.
As a second that's still learning, this is all super helpful. Thank you, guys. So
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So I had a question for Rose. What advice would you give to someone who is new to big budget sets? Like, is there a manner that you should behave? And when do you feel in those big budget sets, is there ever a time to speak up creatively?
Well, honestly, I don't feel there's a big difference. I mean, the bigger the budget, the bigger the problems on a set, maybe. But I think you should, if you have a creative idea on a big set, speak up. Maybe there's a different route, I would have to say, if you're doing a short film with friends versus a big budget movie, and you are a second AC. I would say go to your focus puller and talk about them with the idea that you have. And if you have a nice first AC, I mean, that's what I do with my second. If he has a good idea, or she, I'll walk to the DP and say, hey, listen, he or she had a great idea. What do you think? And but honestly, I don't think there should be a difference between small budget or big budget. I think everyone should have a chance to say something. But just, you have to know the route. I think for big budget, it's a little bit different. But stick to your first AC if you're a second with a great idea. And if you're a first with a great idea, you know how to talk to your DP. Yeah, just I mean, if you're experienced, you know when to say something or when to shut up. I mean, it's important.
Yeah, I agree with that. As a first, on the long form, on series or movies, when it comes down to like the focus questions or creative focus pulling. I actually sidestep the DP altogether, and depending on my relationship with the director, I will go to, after having seen a rehearsal, we've done a take, and I've seen something in the shot which I think is important. Just being a focus puller, I will go to the director and I'll say, "What do you think about this? This is what I saw in this shot. Given the scene, given the nature of what's happening in the scene and emotions, I feel the focus should maybe be on a particular person that is not necessarily speaking, but their expression in that one take was like told a lot more than the words that were being spoken." And invariably the director will say, just chase the dialogue or chase the words, or they take a moment and they go, "Oh, that's interesting. Let me have a look at that." And sometimes I see a bit of confusion, and I'll say, "Okay, I'll just pull the feeling. I'll just use the force, and I'll do one. I'll chase the dialogue, or we'll do one on this person, and then we'll do a take on that person." Or the director will say, "Just do one like I want, and then we'll do another take, and you can just freestyle it." But I always try and motivate it, given the scene and given what I'm seeing from my camera perspective. And I'll often go through the operator, because the operator is often looking for a particular moment in a shot. They may want me to transfer focus at a particular time, or they might say, "No, just stay there. Let that person stay soft." But it's very much a communication thing. But in terms of when to say something and to who, as a second, your focus puller. I wouldn't go anywhere else, because the bigger the budget, the bigger the ego and the bigger the attitude you can be faced with. And sometimes the bigger the project, the smaller you are as a number according to the money. You can be more of a little people than a small job, where you actually maybe have a bit more kind of say so. But yeah, you follow your chain of command. You go to your first goes to the DP or operator, DP director. But in terms of offering up creative input, I think as a second, slate art. That's the way to go. Slate art.
It's perfect. Thank you, guys.
So I'm going to pull one from the audience before we move forward. Oh, okay, I like this one. Michael Cedeno asks, how can we get our foot in the door, alternatives to Facebook groups? And I think that this has changed a lot in COVID times. The question is, how do you network with other assistants in order to find yourself working on film sets? Rose?
I'm gonna cut in here. Yeah. There's a great platform. I'm just gonna very much promote it here. It's a Focus Pullers at Work platform that we have, where I'm one of the, I don't know how to say this, ambassadors of, and it's created by Focus Pullers, and it's for Focus Pullers, and it's a forum, and it's a blog, and it's a place where you can ask any question that you want, but it's also a place where you can connect with other Focus Pullers and ask the silly questions of which shoes do I wear when it's raining, or how do you make a rain cover, or I don't know, any question, technical issues, anything. So this is a platform which has been growing a lot over the last few months, I think because of COVID, because we all need a place to ask our silly questions. So I would say, aside from Facebook and Instagram, that's a nice place for Focus Pullers, but also for second ACs. To network. I know it's very difficult now to get a foot in the door, as you say it. It's difficult, honestly. If people don't know you, why should they hire you? But promote yourself a little bit, be confident of your skills, because I'm very confident that everyone has a perfect skill for a set. And what I always say to my trainees and seconds, please talk to me about your dreams. It's exactly what James says. Where do you see yourself in a few years? What do you want? Do you want to be an operator? Let me know. But you can also do that digitally. You don't have to see me. You can also just email me or say it on the forum. Just say what you want. So if I can go for 10-2 or my operator is not there, I can get you on the set and have you do something that you really want. So I would always say, yeah, speak about your dreams and connect on the Focus Pullers at Work forum. Well, here you have it. This is all our asses. It's great. And for the future, whenever we're allowed, we're planning on having some live events. So meetups with seconds, with firsts, and it's just, I think it's just like Comic-Con for Focus Pullers. It's like a gathering of nerds talking about actors not hitting the marks. It's drinking cocktails named Shoot the Rehearsal. It's just a gathering of people who think alike and are a bit alike, because I think we're all the same. So get your foot through the door, go to the Focus Pullers at Work platform.
James, how did you get your start, considering that you work in a very small community of filmmakers?
I did at the time, there were a couple of Focus Pullers running a Lotus course. So it's a course that was designed to introduce people into, or new recruits into the camera department. So learning film theory, how to be a loader, everything that needs to be done as a loader. And I'd already done a couple of years in the industry before I did the Lotus course. And that introduced me into the camera department. And I gelled with a few of our instructors on that course. I gelled with them instantly. And things just kind of grew from there. And I did the course, and then I did some trainee work with some of them. And it's very much a case of finding a Focus Puller, finding a first that you can team up with, and then you roll job to job to job, and you go out as a team all the time, really. But my first 2 years, I was very much kind of everybody's loader. And the way we work here in South Africa is we have a booking agent. But more than a diary service, we actually have an agent that represents us, and we'll send out our availabilities, and we try and keep the numbers such that there are as many seconds as there are firsts. So when a first is working, when all the firsts are working, all the seconds are working. And that's kind of how we operate. And I got to know everybody in Cape Town, all the Focus Pullers. I worked with a lot of them, and then I started working. I did a movie with one particular one. Actually, no, we were doing some commercials, and we went on to a movie, and then we literally rolled for 3.5 years together. As I was his loader, and he's operating now, and he eventually actually kicked me out, and he said we came off a movie in 2008, and he said, "That's it. It's like I can't teach you anymore. It's like, go. You need to pull focus. You're bored." Literally, that's what he said to me. It's like you need to go pull focus. You need something new. But that's how I kind of made the jump or got into it. And it's you build you have to build a name for yourself. So it's not about you getting to know everybody. Everybody needs to get to know who you are. So you need to kind of ideally work with the right people, not necessarily on the big jobs, but you need to work with the right people so that they want you on the next job. So it's very much who knows you as opposed to who you know. and that's that's kind of how I've rolled. I'll try and be as loyal to loaders, to seconds as much as I can until they choose to move on or move up in their world, because they need to follow their own paths. And when I've had kind of, I'd say, a full-time loader, I've always said to them, it's like, we have the same agent, but if I'm booked on a 2-day commercial and you can get yourself a 5-day commercial with another focus puller, you must go on that job, because it's your career as well. You can't just sit around because I'm not working when you could be working. It's like you in this for yourself. It's like, if you're available, I'll use you. But if you can be working with somebody else, that's also good, because working with a whole lot of different focus pullers, when you're a second, you exposing yourself to a whole lot of different systems, because every focus puller has their own system. So you're learning different systems, you're learning different techniques, and you're learning different tricks, especially with film and on film cameras, because they are quirky things. And I mean, those of you that have been through film, you'll know that a 535 film camera can lock up on you, and if you don't know how to unlock that block inside the movement, it's like you're stuffed, until somebody comes along and says, this is how you do it. So those aren't in the manual. So you need to diversify your portfolio as a loader, work with as many focus pullers as possible to learn their tricks, because that all goes into your archive of tips and tricks that is going to get you out of trouble. And that's what you then pass on to loaders when you become a focus puller. So that's how I kind of did it. Just stuck with one person as long as I could, but also I diversified, worked with as many as I could. I got a really good break up country, went and worked with a focus puller, a very well-known focus puller up there, who literally, I knew he could do everything, but I wanted to learn. So when he arrived at the start of the day, I had done everything. He arrived with his basket, his newspaper, his snacks, and I said, that's fine, Bogey. You go sit there, you're going to have your breakfast. Everything else is done. Don't need to build a camera. I've got everything. And he was grateful for that. And so he taught me tricks, because I wasn't lumping everything on him. I was learning by doing everything. And by doing that, he fed me the tips and tricks, and so on and so forth with other focus pullers. You try something, it works. That's great. Try this. Or you get it wrong. No, don't do that. Bad loader. It's just kind of how it goes.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that story. That was amazing. Sabrina, do you have another one for us here?
Yes, this one was for Rose. So, are you a career technician, or do you want to move up to operator or cinematographer?
No, I do not. When I was in film school, went to the Amsterdam Film Academy. I would think I was the most ambitious one in class, wanting to be a DP, wanted to win an Oscar for cinematography, and and then I graduated, and then I started focus pulling, and I really enjoyed it. And along the way, I did got the opportunity to do a drama series, but it just wasn't for me, because I just really like the fiddling around with the technique and the camera stuff, and it's something that James said before. What I love absolutely the most about this job is when you look at a scene and you get a feeling of where the focus should be, and you don't say anything, you just do it, and you surprise your DP or the director, because you're elevating the story to another level. The scene gets better because of your focus pulling. And I think that's a feeling that I don't want to lose that. I think that's the best thing of my job, telling a story with focus. And I'm not very jealous of the DPs when I see them going on all recce's and all the other stuff. And well, this was a great, I'm maybe a little bit jealous of these people, because they're my friends and they're just great. But they work longer hours and they have to think about all the stuff. My day ends, I close the van, I go home. I'm very satisfied with my focus pulling of a day. Then, yeah, I had a great day. And when my second is happy and when my trainees are happy, I'm a happy person as well. So I'm going to stick to focus pulling. Yeah, no doubt.
That's perfect. And I like the way you describe it. It is kind of a love. You start off with one thing, because I know so many people who go to school or just starting in the industry with their mindset on a certain position, but then they start up in another and they fall in love with that. And again, I love the way you described it. That's perfect.
You're welcome.
I think also the more you climb up the ladder, the more politics you have to deal with. You know, the more managerial you get, the less you get to step away from the practical. You know, and Rose likes to, like myself, it's the cameras, it's the gear, it's the build, it's the creative nature of an operator giving you a frame and saying, right, what can you do with this, given what the cast is saying and what you like. This is what I've given you. Now you give me something else, and having that kind of freedom, or the freedom to kind of express your own creativity in a shot. It's great, especially when you can actually convince a director that what you think is a good idea, and then they like it, and they go, I hadn't thought of that, I didn't see that, thank you for showing me that. And they're like, and then you watch the final product and it's like, there's my focus pull that I convinced them to use. You know, it's quite rewarding.
Yeah, I agree fully. I think the more I do it, the longer I do it, the more the little things I discover like this. Well, when you start out, you don't know about this, but you're just very cautious about the technique has to work. But the longer you do it, the more experience you get, the more, and the technique and the focus pulling itself becomes your second nature. So you don't worry about that. So you start looking at the scene and you start getting involved in the creative process. And now I am really enjoying educating my trainees. And I'm very curious about what's next to discover in the profession of a focus puller. I don't know yet, but I think there's more to it.
Rose, if you look back at your first day of pulling focus, you were probably on the wheel like this. It was like white knuckles and your eyes were like this and you're like freaking out. Am I going to get it right? And it was distance. And now it's like,
absolutely.
It's just, you're literally on the wheel. It's 3 fingers. It's like you just relaxed, and it's like your hand is moving according to not distance, but the emotion that you're seeing in the shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
It takes you automatically where it kind of needs to be.
I think for everyone who's starting out and discovers gets this first moment of really feeling a scene and really contributing to a scene, I think, and if you really feel that, I think that's the moment where you're going to fall in love with focus pulling, without a doubt, because this is absolutely, for me, the greatest thing that there is. I mean, technique is fine, we can all learn, but to get that feeling
I think the first time I really appreciated the creative side of focus pulling and the impact we as focus pullers have, like on an emotional aspect of where to put the focus, was when I got comms from sound and I put those earphones on my ears and everything else disappeared except sound-wise, except what the actors were saying. And I've got the script there, I've read it, I've seen the rehearsal, I know where it's going to go, and suddenly you actually in the movie in a way, and it's like what you're hearing is actually almost driving you where you want to go in terms of the focus. That, I think, was the first time I really, when I was immersed in it, not just visually, but when I was surrounded by audibly, that was the first time I really connected with focus pulling. It no longer was just a mechanical process of sharp here, sharp there, back, forth, chase the lines, I could actually start to really experience the scene. Is when I actually put those headphones on and I could be part of it. And you kind of get to an emotional scene, or get through an emotional scene. It's like the headphones come off, and it's just like, okay, that was heavy. It's like you really kind of get into it.
Yeah, I can relate to this.
And if it's a comedy you want, it's like you're just trying to be quiet by the camera, and it's just like you're trying not to laugh, and it's just you're just like pulling focus because you take your headphones off because it's too funny, things like that. It works both ways, whether it's a drama or comedy.
That's perfect. Thank you. Jess, I think, has another one for us from the audience.
Yes, there's a really good one that I'm actually curious about too. How do first ACs build their show reels and their resumes to start work with new DPs? Rose, you want to take that?
That's difficult.
That's you,
I
Rose.
was looking in the Q&As. I saw the question as well, and I was actually thinking about it. A show reel. Jesus, how do you do that as a focus puller? I don't think you can, honestly. I have a resume. I have a website. We don't have agencies or diary service here. We just don't. So how do you do that as a focus puller? It's a very good question. I honestly don't know.
You have DPs and operators that like to work with you. That's kind of
but it's on a very personal level. But if you want to like promote yourself or get to know people, the way that we do it in Holland is you just hang out at the rental. I think that's very difficult now with COVID, but that's how we spend our time, like fiddling around with stuff at the rental and just get to know people and just tell them, hey, I'm a second or I'm a focus puller. I've just done this and this, or which just be very, very Dutch, but I would just say, hey, how would you like to work with me for a day or something? Would you be interested in doing that? Because I know I would be. Takes a little bit of courage, maybe, but yeah, give it a go. Why not?
I think
also share your IMDb link.
Yeah, and IMDb is not a thing here. I have an IMDb page, but it's not. I mean, when I was starting out, it wasn't a thing. I believe now it is, but it's something you could have to answer for me. I don't know.
Yeah, IMDb is very region-based. In the US, it's prominent, but abroad, I think a little bit less so, depending on the market. And the social media nowadays, especially Instagram, has definitely changed how we see each other. I use my page, Camera Samurai, as purely a marketing tool for myself, showing the work that I'm doing, builds, preps, sometimes videos. There's a platform called Industry Jump, and it's a networking platform where you can link past work through, if the video's on YouTube or Vimeo, people can then see things that I pulled focus on that are finished products. But it's so regional specific. It's difficult because, as James had mentioned, there's a booking service for them, but here I'm a part of a union, but the union doesn't get me work. My network of assistants gets me work. And so, the unfortunate thing is that there's no right or wrong way to do this. And it's very region specific, what will work best for you. And so you have to try everything and then continue to do what works consistently.
Yeah, I worked with a German operator, and this was actually before, Instagram had already been around for many years, and I'd actually shied away from it. And she said that she uses Instagram as marketing and as an operator, but she would take photos on set or Instagram or pictures of the slate. This is the job I'm on. That's the job I'm on. Just showing which job she's on, and that for her is a marketing platform. She's very experienced. She's a focus puller for a long time. She's operating. I think she's even lighting now as well. And her approach to Instagram is it's marketing. It's just a platform. This is what I do. Hire me, kind of thing. So I think, well, okay, well, Instagram, let me try it. Let me go on. Okay, it's work and cats basically, like most of the internet. And it's technical stuff. This is where I'm working. This is the job I'm on. And it's just creating the network. And I wouldn't say it's garnered me any work, that I'm aware of, but it has certainly got me to a point where I'm on a Zoom webinar with you guys. If it hadn't been for Instagram, well, we wouldn't be sitting here. Well, I wouldn't be sitting here. You'd all be there, but I wouldn't be here. So it has certainly broadened my network and put me into contact with industry players and operators, DPs, camera assistants. And it's a network. And it's network. It's tips and tricks. It's like, I've done this, I've done that. Help me out with this, help me with that. And people are quick to jump in and say, this is how you fix that problem. Or this is who you need to speak to regarding this or regarding that. And it's like, it's network. Whether it gets you work or not, that's something else. But it's a community.
Our communities are the biggest part of the work that we do. It's about people and being connected with those who you like to work with, and supportive of those who you want to see succeed. And
yeah. I mean, I may have mentioned it on the previous webinar, but doesn't matter how difficult the day is. You can be toiling away in waist deep mud, and it's mosquitoes, and it's really, really shitty conditions, and you toiling 18 hours in the day, and it's work. For me, a day's work is 10% work, 90% social. That doesn't seem to equate, but what we do, it's a social experience. And we just happen to be working at the same time.
It's true. Yeah. And so who you are and how you get along with people matters.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to pull one from the audience before we get back to our own list. There's a person from London, I believe, Josephine, who has asked, what's one thing you wish you knew before you stepped up to focus pulling? So if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice as you were stepping up, what would it be?
What's you, Rose?
You see me thinking. Oh, honestly, I really don't know. What an amazing question. God. I don't know. Something I wish I knew. No, absolutely not. No. It's a learning curve, I would say. I'm a very much a believer of everything at its own time. So, yeah. No, I wouldn't know. Very sorry, Josephine. I can't answer your question. I do not know. But maybe James.
I've always been guided by, on some levels, a gut instinct, whether it be day-to-day stuff or work stuff. But in terms of something, as has been said, things happen when they happen. I would probably say listen to your colleagues, because maybe, I mean, whether it's listening for good or for bad, I mean, criticism or compliment. Don't let things don't get ahead of yourself. But if your colleagues are suggesting you do something, it's probably the right thing for you to do. But in terms of one thing, it's a difficult question to kind of put an exact answer on.
Meanwhile, I found my answer in my head. What I wish I knew before I started out is that no is also an answer. I think that's
Yes,
very.
I agree.
I,
Yes, yeah,
I think that's very important.
yeah,
No is an answer. Just set your limit, and it's you can apply this to anything, rates, hours, stuff that you have to do. And I don't mean that you have to say no to me when I ask if you're getting my coffee or something like that. That's not what I mean. But I mean just protect yourself. And it's something I learned a little bit too late. So I wish I've known that before. Yeah, no is also an answer. No, I'm not going to do 15 hours. No, I'm not going to work for 200 euros. And when it comes to the current times, no, I'm not going to work without you testing me on COVID first. No, I'm not going to work on a set where there's no mask. I'm just not. And I think that honesty is something that is very valuable, and I wish I've known before. So, sorry, I do have an answer. So,
yeah.
It's a good
I'd agree
answer.
with you wholeheartedly there. Wholeheartedly.
Good answer. The power of no. People don't realize, because this is a yes industry. You want to seem invaluable by saying yes, you can do all of these things all of the time, no matter the lack of safety, no matter the, and it's how you wield the word no, right? It's not that you say it, it's how you say
absolutely, and maybe today is a good. It's not a good day, but it's a day where we, in terms of safety, something that's very valuable. That it's the word no. No, I'm not gonna go in the back of a car or some random car shots. If it's not safe, just don't do it. Yeah.
I've been guilty
Yeah,
of that.
I think what happened 7 years ago with Sarah definitely made that no a lot louder. You know, because people may have said it, and as Matthew said, you know, it's very much a yes culture. We must get it done. You know, yes, 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 because we're all looking to the next job and we want it, so we must do whatever the boss says. But I've definitely, I think, since Sarah passed away, I've definitely been a lot more vocal on set in terms of safety. I've always been vocal about camera safety, you know, and equipment safety, because I want to get the day done. You know, I don't want anything to fall on me and then turn around and say, hey, but you broke the camera. But to put it into, to have that perspective changed, and it's like, well, the camera's just a tool. If it breaks, it breaks. You know, at the end of the day, and actually, I worked with the DP, American DP, Chris Baffa. What an amazing guy to work with. He would take control of the floor. You know, the lighting floor. We'd do our rehearsal when it was a technical floor, and things would be going on set, and he would just literally raise his voice and he would just quiet everything, and he's just like, guys, I'm just trying to get us home. And that kind of resonated back then. And this was before, actually I worked with him after Sarah passed, and it really put into perspective that it's like, we all want to go home at the end of the day. You know, we do this because we love it, and it pays the bills, but we do it because we want to do it, and we enjoy doing it with the people we do it with, and we all want to come back tomorrow and do it again. So being able to say no, often at the time, it's a bitter pill for the powers that be to swallow. But when they actually stop and think about it, even for a second, and they realize why that no's been uttered, they realize, okay, that is right, you know, and we can't push forward with what we wanted to do because somebody said no, and their reasons are totally and utterly valid. You know, so it's, and that kind of inner voice, that gut feeling when something doesn't feel right, something's going to go wrong. What's happening on the other side of sets, which won't affect me, but affect somebody else. Put up your hand and say, that's not safe. You're bringing attention to a situation which could go anyway, but you're saying, don't do that because X, Y, and Z. You know, if anything happens after that, you've put it out there. You've put it to the set gods, and you know, hopefully people listen.
And honestly, if a producer or director doesn't want to see me on their next set because I raised a safety concern, then I don't want to be on
Exactly,
their next
that's
set.
their loss. Yeah.
Sabrina, you got one from the audience for us? Pardon me, James.
Yes, I do. So this one is from Martina, and sorry if I say your last name wrong, Majensen. So she was asking, what about traveling to another city for work reasons? And does it feel wrong? Because she said, trying to find something from far away, and do they even want me on set? I think what she's trying to say, like, traveling to another city to find work, is it wrong to do in your opinion?
Rose, I think that because you're in the Netherlands, you're close to other European markets. And so have you found yourself fielding offers that are not in the Netherlands? And would you take them if they were offered to you?
Well, coincidence. I was in the UK in November and December because I got offered a large job over there. Yes, I felt guilty. I felt like I was stealing away jobs from focus pullers in the UK who have not been working because of COVID. But on the other hand, but there was a reason for them to ask me. So I felt a little bit guilty, but I also took a chance and just did it. And if you're going to another country or city yourself, because that's something that you want to do, go and do it. I don't think there's any reason to feel guilty about that or to not do that. I mean, follow your dreams is something that I would always encourage. So yeah, go to another city, meet people, see if you can get into their industry. Why not? If you're good, they're gonna work with you anyways. So
That's great. James, do you see a lot of influx of foreign crews in Cape Town because of the fact that the industry there is as small as it is?
We don't see a lot of international crew. However, the odd job that has come out here, big international job, blockbuster, they may come out with an A camera first, and then they are then overseeing the camera. They're building the camera team from local crew. That's something that we can't get away from because it's being dictated to us by the studio, for example. But certainly there are not a lot of internationals that are coming in for season and then disappearing, what kind of traveling, doing the swallow thing and traveling the endless summer. We don't have many of those. Those one or two internationals that are here have been here for a long time, you know, and they're considered local. We do have a fair bit of movement between within South Africa, between Cape Town and Johannesburg in terms of crew, and there's always the ongoing banter between Cape Town crew and versus Johannesburg crew. You know, the usual banter that you would have amongst colleagues, but there's no animosity. You know, it's like if you've been brought down for a job, you've been brought down for a job. It's because maybe that person has been asked for by the DP. You know, if they come here and they seemingly take my job, well, I can go there and take their job. You know, it's at the end of the day, you know, if there's enough work to go around, everybody's working. You know, it's just in times like this when there's not a lot of work, there's very little. Some people seemingly work more than others. I mean, I'll just say from my perspective, I've been primarily in TV series and movies for the last 5 or 6 years. So I've been out of the commercials realm. So I'm out of that loop. So I'm not the first port of call. And the commercials world in Cape Town. Cape Town has been primarily commercials, international commercials or service work based. And I'm out of the loop, and there is a turnover of production companies, so there's a change of people and change of producers, and they don't know who I am because I haven't been doing the 30 to 50 commercials in a season. I've done 10 to 15 in the last 5 years, so I'm out of that loop. But that's the nature of the business. If you're in one field and you trying to step into another when you've been out of it for a long time, you're not going to get work straight away. When people are looking, or people that are from or that know you and realize, oh, you're available, they may pick you up on the job. That's great, but there's no animosity. It's kind of, it is what it is. Some people have been ticking over during COVID, but they have a client base. They have people they work with. That's the realm they're in. It's you can't hold that against them. It may feel unfair because, well, they're working and you're not, but it is how it goes. You kind of just you put up your hand and say, I'm available. This is what I've done. My capabilities. If you want to use me, you can use me. It can feel tough at times. And it's the nature of the game. But I don't feel that internationals never. We did at one point feel that internationals may have been coming in and kind of stealing work away from us. Because the international jobs were coming here and they were bringing their technicals, and we were like, no, come now. We actually have world-class technicals here. So there was some issues were raised about it, and they realized, actually, they don't need to be paying international rates when they, this might sound bad, when they can kind of have the local crew here at local rates, and they are just as good. So at the end of the day, it comes down to a money thing from the studio side of things, but that's business, and I stay out of the business side. I'm not a producer. It's like, this is my rate, pay me my rate, I'll do stuff for you.
Wonderful. Yes, I appreciate these perspectives because I know that in the U.S. there can be regional squabbling at times, and so it's great to hear your similar perspectives. I have one that's a little bit of a goofy one, but I like it, right? So in the US, it's not very common, but a photo that you both shared with me in common was ladder pods. Do you both love ladder pods? Because Rose, I mean, this is a great,
Depends how heavy the camera is.
I hate ladder pods. Honestly, what's this? It's like 3 ladders, like a thingy on top. It's always, it's a thing we use here, and I do not like it. I would have
We
said
use them a lot.
yeah, we use them a lot, and it's an opportunity for my second to get on there and help the grip, because I'm definitely not doing that. I have a remote focus, so I'll be on the ground. No, I do not like them. No.
Invariably, it's not on the A7S with the little pancake lens on it, and the whole camera package weighs like 1 pound. It's invariably the Alexa SXT with the 11:1 and everything on board, and you just have to carry it up. But if it's too heavy or it's too crazy, I try and I get the grips to certainly offer assistance in getting it up.
But I think that you have the same way of working as we do, where we usually have just one grip on a set, and we were lucky he has an assistant. So we're always helping with moving the camera around. And when it is like I don't know, my last feature was a Venice with the 24-290 Ultra, Optimo Ultra, which was just doesn't even fit the frame how big it is, and you can't even get it on the ladder pod. It's just impossible. I mean, this is where the answer is no.
Yeah, it's not common. I haven't seen a ladder pod in the US, right? And so
really, has it been deemed unsafe?
I don't know. I hope so, because
I think there's a reason. Yeah, I think there's a reason.
Because you're not wearing a harness when you climb up, but that's why.
Probably,
Health and safety.
I think that
wild. I've never seen that.
We love them. We love them.
I think every shoot or every commercial there's Let's get the ladder pod out.
No, we have
Nope.
jibs and cranes, and we do a thing that is basically a cheat of a ladder pod, which is a hi-hat strapped to a ladder. And so that's just as dicey, and we don't like it because it, obviously the ladder is not made for the purpose. But yeah, the three-legged ladder pod, that you're up there. That's up there.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, when I hear it's going to be ladder pod, I'm like, I just hope it's on a wide lens, something light. Not okay. Right, we're looking all the way down the beach, and we need the big zoom on. Or it's like, okay, we finished with a 16 mil. Let's put the zoom on now. Now you've got to. What do you do? Do you take the camera off, go down, change lenses? Do you change it up top? I mean, what do you do? Whatever's safe.
Whatever's safe is the answer at that point. So we'll take one or two more from the audience. We are so grateful for the people who have stuck around with us for over 2 hours at this point in time. And thank you to James and Rose again for being here with us. We'll do just a couple more questions from the audience before we head about. And so Sabrina, do you have one ready for us?
Yes, I found one this is from Diego Almedia. He was asking, has the workflow in rental houses changed during the pandemic, or have you guys noticed any changes with that, with preps or returns, or would you say it's relatively the same?
It's changed considerably. We have two main rentals houses in Cape Town. We've got Panavision and we've got Arri Media. Panavision used to be very much, you walk in, you got the technicians there, the lens guys, you've got all the camera techs, you've got the gear check bays. It's all, you go into their work areas, you sit down, you chat. Now that that's all off limits. Where Panavision Cape Town is set up, they've got studios as well. So we've literally taken over, the gear check bays have moved into one of the studios. So we don't get to actually speak to any of the technicians anymore. There'll be one guy that's on the camera floor. So we're literally phoning or WhatsApping, it's like, I need this, I need that. They come out, we can't go in. It's all sign in, it's temperature checks. We get our printed ID badge to show that everything's been registered and we signed in for a particular gear check. But there's no more going in on an off day because they've got a fancy piece of kit in that you want to play with and learn. There's none of that. The gear gets dropped off. It all goes through sanitizing stations. Whether it's coming in or going out, it will get sanitized. Our FaceTime with the technicians has been reduced. It's crazy. I mean, we're hoping that we can get back to a normal way as soon as we can, but those are dictates that have been laid down by Panavision head office, and it's purely for the safety and the health and safety and security of their staff and their crew, because and the gear, because any gear that comes in doesn't go straight out. It gets taken in, it gets checked, it gets sanitized if it's a night swap. So people are in there at night sanitizing. They got a whole sanitizing station section, or isolation ward, if you want to call it that. It hasn't slowed things down, but it's made it a little bit more difficult because we're not working in the nice fancy gear check bays. Now we've just got a head and legs. We've got a sky panel on a stand, and we've got a freelance chart on a combo stand, and we don't have nice rails to work on because they're not going to dismantle everything and set it up somewhere else for this hopefully brief period of lockdown. It's frustrating, because it's very much a personal thing. You go in, you have the relationships with the guys, and it's you help them out, they help you out. So COVID's definitely had an impact on how we interact, how we gear check, learning new gear. We can't just go in, because then they got to sanitize it. So there's no going in with a new AC to try and teach them a new wireless or a new camera system or something new's come in. We just can't do that at the moment. So I might be sitting at home for 4 months on end, but I can't use it and go and learn new technical things or new gear, because it's going to put them in danger, because I'll be going in there untested. We just got to push through. We just got to allow for this and make it all work as best we can.
Rose, have things been different in the Netherlands?
Yes. Yes, it's different. I experienced this, what James is telling at Panavision in the UK, super strict. But here in the Netherlands, we have to wash our hands and wear a mask, and we have the testing booths, but we're limited to one person, so you can't bring your second in, and you have to make an appointment for your test, so you pick a time slot. You're not allowed to hang around for a coffee, or usually they also provide lunch, so that's what they don't do anymore. I have to bring your own lunch. But aside from this, it's basically, it got back to pretty normal, I'd have to say. And I know that the Netherlands is not a believer of sanitizing stuff. I mean, I sanitize my camera gear with a alcohol thingy, but the rental doesn't. I don't know if they like me saying this, but they just don't. I mean, it goes back to back from jobs. Has been super busy here, so there wasn't even time to check it. I mean, got checked in, yeah, everything's complete, right, bye. So yeah, that's quite a big difference, I would have to say. So didn't change a lot.
No, I think regionally it is very different, and even house to house, it's been different. In Los Angeles, there are a lot of boutique rental houses, and from boutique house to house, some are wiping down everything, spraying everything. Others are not. In the larger houses, it's similar to the things you've experienced with Panavision. A few places let you come in because you want to come in and look at something, unless there's no one else there. And even if there's no one else there, it can be a little bit like pulling teeth to get them to allow you in. There's just a great disparity in experience, but we all look forward to when we're a little bit beyond this and can go back to the rental house being a place where we gather socially around gear, because that
definitely
is something I think we all miss tremendously.
Yeah, that's what we all miss. Yeah, that's not possible, honestly. But you're saying, like, teaching another AC about a new system. I give some workshops with my C Pro. I can still do that. I used to do that in like groups, but now I have to do that one-on-one, which is also nice, but it's very different, and it's very a bit boring because you miss the social stuff, honestly. But I think it's very different in every region. Like you're saying, it's all depending on the numbers and your government and restrictions and
lots of factors.
Yeah, every country treats it differently.
Yeah, and I think all of us look forward to, again, when we're beyond it.
I think that's an absolute understatement.
Yeah, I've got one that's a pretty good one from the audience about laser measuring systems, right? And versus measuring yourself, and then the use of those with mobile platforms. And so, Rose, if you would be so kind to speak first on the use of things like the CineRT Focus Bug or Cinetape, right? At what point in time do you think a focus puller needs to learn how to use these systems?
The first bit of gear that I bought was a UDM. So I didn't buy a remote, I bought a UDM because I thought that's the thing that's going to help me, because it's going to measure for me. Well, was I wrong? It's just a tool. It just helps you out, just like your tape measuring does. It's not an absolute thing. It's like your laser. You can measure it, but it can be very different. And I'll tell you what I'm measuring here. I'm measuring a desk because that doesn't move. I always measure stuff that doesn't move because actors just don't hit the marks. You can't blame it on them. They have lots of stuff to do, but they just don't. So, and at what point are you going to use your rangefinder? I don't know. I've been working with my tape measure and my laser and my rangefinder all at the same time because it's all tools that help me out. And I have a CineRT and a focus bug right now. That's what I use. And I've made it on a motor, so I can use my remote to pan it during the shots. I would have to say that helps me out so much that I almost never measure with a laser or a tape measure. I just measure with my CineRT in the rehearsal, just panning it around. Very useful for anamorphic when people are a bit of it, like here in the frame. Just pan my horns, and then I measure. And with the CineRT, you can save the distances, and it's a great tool. So at what point? Yeah, I don't know. And you have a lot of money to buy it because it's super expensive.
Do you feel like it's something that you got a return on, or is it just a kit piece that you own? Like, when you buy carts, you don't expect to like make money off your carts, but you buy them because they'll be useful to you. And so do you think that it's a different mindset of investment?
Yeah, because you try to explain this to a producer, like, hey, hi, yeah, I'm bringing my own kit. Yeah, I'm gonna bring CineRT. Well, it's a device that measures for me, and when I press the button on my remote, it does autofocus. You can't explain this to a producer, and so they're not gonna pay for it.
No, you don't tell them it does autofocus. You never tell them it does autofocus.
No, so I've never said this. So. But
I know what you mean.
You can't really explain this to a producer because they're like, yeah, but the tape measure that also works, right? Yeah. So a focus, any rangefinder, whatever you please, whatever you like, is a tool for you. Because the producer is never going to understand what you mean. So I do make money out of it, but not that much. It's an investment for me. I get better from the rangefinder. Perfect.
James, do you have any further insight?
Yeah, gear in general in my region is a money spinner. A lot of ACs have invested in gear. Some have invested in lenses. Some have invested in cameras. I've got a basic package. I've got my follow focus. I don't have a wireless focus yet. I've got a CineRT focus bug. I've got monitors, matte boxes, filters, handheld rigs. None of the camera and lens stuff because that is far too expensive. But just following on from what Rose said about trying to explain to a producer about what these things do, my standard response is it makes things happen faster because they like to hear things happening quickly. Because and I use it with I've used it on with first ADs as well. It's like I've turned to, obviously when I'm on good terms with them, I say, you don't want to see me pull out my tape measure and take 2 minutes to get marks, because producers will love to see me take my tape measure out and get marks because they know I'm doing my job. You know, it's a bit of a game with some of the crew on set, you know, with ADs. But in terms of gear and like what helps, you know, I've got the laser, I've got the CineRT, and I use whatever I can as quickly as I can, and whatever doesn't slow the process down and doesn't get in the way of the process, especially the actors. And like Rose says, she'll ping a desk with a laser because that's a known entity. It's not going to move. Well, hopefully it doesn't move. But I use the CineRT a lot. And like she says, she's got hers motorized. I made my own little bracket so I saw a video of like, oh wow, these horns are motorized, they can pan. So I made my own. just to see if I could. I've yet to use them in a motorized state, but what I do use is I use the handset, the hand unit that comes with the Cine-RT, because that in itself is a rangefinder. You can walk out onto set and you can record 8 different marks with that. And literally, instead of pulling out cloth tape out to cast members' eyes, you literally just walk up to them, put the handset up, and you click a button. There, you've saved that mark. You don't even stop walking. You just click, 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 and you've got 8 marks, out to 140 feet, and it's there. They are. They're saved. It's like, it's just using whatever tools you can, whether it be a laser, whether it be pacing something out, whether it be a steel tape measure, which often close quarters is the best thing to use. I'll use whatever's available to me. And I love the Cine-RT. I think the guys at Focusbug Technologies have created a brilliant piece of kit. I don't use the bug so much, but in terms of the horns and the functionality of the handset and what it can give me in terms of getting around obstacles and just measurement readings, it's fantastic. And they are references; they're not absolute. It's you still have to take into account real world actors not hitting marks, and things like that. But it certainly gives you the reference that you need to get you in the ballpark, and then you fine tune by eye or by monitor, depending on the shot.
That's excellent. Thank you. So Sabrina, how about one last one to take us home? What do you got for me? Oh, you are muted, my friend.
Told myself I wouldn't forget, and I did. I did have one last question for Rose and James. So with everything that you guys said with lockdowns and COVID and kind of changing things up on set, do you still think now is a good time for people to move up in the department? What's your opinion?
No, it's not a good time.
Mm.
All the good ones are jobless too. So why would I call you and not the good ones? And I know that sounds really harsh and really unfriendly, but I don't think it's a good time to step up. Yeah, it sounds really unfriendly, but it's not how I mean it. I think it's just a matter of timing. I think, when is a good time to step up? When everyone's busy. Because that's going to happen. It's going to be a tsunami of work. Netflix needs stuff. Amazon needs stuff. Everyone's going to be working, and that's the moment where you want to give it a go. But when everyone's jobless at home, and there's like a few jobs coming in, I don't think that's a good time. That's not a good timing. But when there's work, there obviously is a good timing. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because if people know you as a second, they don't know you as a first. You're an unknown entity. So when there's no work around, you're going to stick out, and they're going to call on the people they know as a first. They're going to call on the operator that they know before they call on the first that has stepped up to operating. They're going to go with the known entities, unless of course you have an operator or a DP that's going to give you a break. But as Rose says, when it's busy and they need somebody, it's like, that's when you put your hand up and you say, well, I'm here and I'm ready. And if they want to take a chance and they want to take you on the job and you do it and you nail it, you A for away. But yeah, Rose is bang on. It's like, now is definitely not the time to be stepping up. Maybe 1 in 100 will get it right. But I think generally speaking, you stepping into an unknown where all eyes are going to be on you, as opposed to when everybody's busy, all eyes are somewhere else. And you can actually, you're going to stand out if you try and make the jump now. Rose is spot on there. It may sound harsh, but stick with what you are good at and what you know and what people know you for. And they'll call on you for that. They're not going to call on you for something that they're not sure whether you can do or not.
That's perfect.
Times are challenging, and if you are working, then that's a blessing. And so if you find yourself on set, you're a second, and you want to move into firsting or operating, maybe you can find some downtime while you're on that job to do a little bit of skill training, ask questions about the position you want to move into. But making the full pledge right now can be really difficult with the markets being as slow as they are.
Yeah.
And
so,
if you're lucky, and you are a second, obviously it's easier for a second to step up to firsting than it is for a first to step up to operating on a one camera job, for example, because it's pretty obvious that, well, now the operator's changed. But if you want a job that allows for it, and you have a focus puller that has your back and is pushing you as a second to step up to being a first, given a particular setup or a particular shot, they may say, all right, take the wheel, give it a go, try this. I had a DP on a commercial way back, and I was still a loader. I mean, this was 2004, and the DP, he was like, come, get on the dolly, you pull this shot. And I mean, what happened? The dolly moved and I fell off. It's like, I wasn't ready for it. But I mean, we got to the end of the track and it's like, well, what happened to you? Where'd you go? But if you have a focus puller, and I do it with my seconds, it's like, if it's a rehearsal or something, it's like, take the wheel, give it a go, see what it feels like. Think about this, think about that. And if you have the right focus puller that is teaching you and is seeing where you want to go, whether it's COVID or not, if they're going to lift you up and get you going in the direction you want to go, that's great. But to try and put your own name out there as something that you're not known for, it's going to be tough.
Sometimes the truth hurts, and this is friendly advice in a difficult way, but it's great. It's perfect.
It's kind of harsh. Sorry, so I felt the need to say sorry, but I understand that a lot of lives are paused right now. So I just wanted to say to everyone who's feeling like that, just hang in there. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know when, but it's there. I'm very confident of
a train.
that. Yeah, I mean, it's paused now, but it will develop. And if you stay confident of that, then I mean, it might help you get through a period of time which is not very pleasant, which is now. But yeah, you're not alone. All lives are paused right now, and it's shit, honestly.
It's difficult to learn when you're not working. When COVID, you're sitting at home. It is difficult to learn.
Yeah, it's difficult to learn, but it's difficult to stay motivated. It's I mean, it's just a little bit of a difficult time, and yeah.
You get tired of watching Netflix.
Yeah, and if you really want to step up, it will happen. You will work for it, and eventually it will come. This is just a little bit of a shit year.
That step up time will actually will come when your colleagues and those around you tell you, "Hey, step up." That's what happened to me. I got kicked out the nest, so to speak, and I was told, "Go and pull focus." It does come down to a confidence thing. You can step up as and whenever you want, if you feel you can do the job, and that you feel that you've learned enough to fake it till you make it. If you want to look at it that way. If you feel you can do it, then you must do it. But yeah, difficult times at the moment. We just all have to hang in there. We do what we do. Light at the end of the tunnel will get brighter.
Thank you for that. I'm going to take that as your final word and say, Rose, do you have any final words to share with everybody?
Yeah, I do. Follow your dreams. Don't give up. Stay positive, even though it's difficult. I try as well. And you're allowed to have down days. Because I have as well. We all have. But yeah, just follow your dreams. Anything's possible, really.
That's great. That's perfect. Sabrina, do you have any final words? What was the most valuable thing you feel you heard today?
Oh gosh, I think the whole saying no for the right time and just simple things that you both are looking for in a second AC. I've been very guilty of wanting to be the answer always to my first AC, wanting to always have that random device or object that you needed, and understanding that I can do these things, but also it's okay to say like, hey, I've been working for 16 hours straight. Can I take a break for a second? This is insane.
Got to take care of yourself. That's very important. And so with that, thank you for those who stuck with us the entire 2.5 hours. We are so grateful to have the audience that we do, and to have the amazing mentors that we have here, such as James and Rose. Thank you again for joining us. Sabrina, thanks for assisting me, and we look forward to many more times being connected. You know, if there's anything that this awful year has shown us, it's that we can use certain tools to be better connected amongst one another as filmmakers. And so thank you again for joining us. If you want to review this, it'll be on our YouTube page later. And you know, we greatly look forward to the next time we get to share in each other's company. Take care, everyone, and safe shooting. All the best.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Absolute pleasure.
Bye, friends.
Okay.